Hello and welcome to 2020's first episode of the Pre-sale Pulse, a real estate show dedicated and committed to helping you understand everything that's happening in the local marketplaces, both Vancouver and the Fraser Valley. So I'm Ryan Lalonde, and it's my absolute pleasure
What's it gonna be today?
To introduce you to our very own 2021 Real Estate Marketer MVP of the Year, Susana Gonçalves.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Applause.
Last year was a remarkable year. Tons of incredible headlines. So far, this year, we've also seen the same saturation. Reports across the board of all-time high sales transactions and price increases. And of course, record low supply once again. Now, this may be news to some, but if you've been following the Pre-sale Pulse in 2021, it's a storyline that's been slowly building throughout the year. So what does this mean for the marketplace in 2022? Well, we're gonna ask Susana that question a bit later, but we strongly anticipate that the market growth throughout the province of British Columbia is going to continue strong demand for assets as a hedge against inflation. So a trend that we typically see in December is that the overall monthly transactions in Greater Vancouver, they drop. Overall, they shrink, and that's a result, more often than not, that supply also comes back. Many listings are taken down through the holiday months and they come back on in the month of December. We're gonna be paying very close attention to all the stats that fall out of January that will report in February as we get ready to understand where the market's going to go over the next 12 months. So in today's episode, we're gonna talk about some of the biggest headlines out there. So first off, we're gonna start with a look at the market and how the economy is responding to the new Omicron variant. It's absolutely having an impact in real estate. We're gonna look at new annual sales records in Greater Vancouver and the Fraser Valley. This is very interesting stuff. And then of course, highlight some of the exciting projects that are set to hit in the marketplace in 2022.
Now, if you're looking for market data, information on a specific marketplace, or recommendations on product design, our internal MLA advisory team is active in all major markets across Canada, so reach out to us using the links below. So today we're thrilled to be filming in the sales gallery of Easton by Essence Properties. And this sales gallery is actually located within our MLA Canada Fraser Valley office. So if you're interested in leasing out this space, please let us know. Now, Easton was another great success story of 2021. With the addition of much needed supply of condos in the valley, Essence Properties successfully sold out the program prior to the end of 2021 and after just a few weeks of sales. More of that to be shared by Brittany in the Fraser Valley edition of the Pre-sale Pulse. But let's start by looking at last month's macroeconomic.
Oh, this is one of my favorite parts of the show. Let's jump into it. First thing, we have to start off with British Columbia and Canada's economic outlook. Our neighbors down south are one of the handful of developed countries whose GDP has actually fully recovered to pre-crisis levels. Now, extraordinary fiscal measures have supported both consumption and job growth, and this is likely going to drive a very positive Canadian economy as we move through 2022. So on the topic of COVID, now while new daily cases are rising, we've seen increased restrictions and overall deaths remain low. While obviously still concerning, we as a province are supported by high vaccination rates and booster shots are becoming available. We know that this is going to have a continued positive impact on transmission. Now, the Bank of Canada's next rate announcement is on January 26th, and while we don't expect blowout news related to interest rates, we do expect them to address how the Omicron variant and recent employment numbers will affect when they'll begin to rate hikes. Now, our expectation is that rates will climb at different portions throughout the year. 55,000 new jobs were added in the month of December. That's well above the consensus call for 25,000. Now, this coincides with decreased unemployment rates hitting 5.9% in December. Those are incredible numbers. While employment numbers are typically supported by increased demand in both the service industry and over the holidays, it really aligns with the trends that we've seen over the last 12 months. Now, Suze, as of the time of filming, the TSX and the S&P composite, modest gains, increasing just under a point, 0.76%, from where it was just at the beginning of December. And the U.S. Treasury yields, they rose on Friday as institutional investors really are anticipating Federal Reserve increases in rates in early spring. The market is building for expectation. Now, firing off on some of the key trends that we're monitoring as we move into 2022. Canadian households will be the key to economic recovery in Canada over the next 12 months. So the savings that continue to be accumulated over the pandemic, they're expected to allow most households to make it through inflation and being able to support some of the rising prices that we're seeing across commodities and assets. Our opinion is that this is going to continue to translate in upward demand for real estate investment over the next 12 months. We believe that prices tomorrow will be higher than what they are today. I think that that's a great way for us to maybe touch on what happened in 2021 and where's 2022 going in terms of pre-sale numbers.
Yeah, so before we dive into the December numbers specifically, let's just do a quick recap on the year as a whole. In total, we saw 7 projects launch in the month of December, bringing just over 500 units to market. This is typical for this time of year. There were several strong releases that were well received in the market. This led to strong same-month absorptions in December as well at 54%. And nearly half of that product was wood frame and received absorptions around 90%. Crazy numbers. This is in large part because of the successful launch of Aldergrove Town Center. Make sure to tune into our Fraser Valley edition of the Pre-sale Pulse to learn more about that project. This is the second month in a row we've seen absorptions above 50%, which, given that this is the sort of that late fall market and holiday season, that really speaks to the sales momentum we're still seeing in the pre-sale market overall right now. So basically, another busy month in December, and that's really going to lead us into the next year.
So concrete and wood frame both released around 200 units, while townhouses surprised everyone, kind of around 133 units. The most that we've seen launch in a single month since June, finally getting some inventory out. And as mentioned, there's incredible activity right now coming out of the Fraser Valley, which has been extremely consistent over the past several months, especially we also saw strong launches in Vancouver West, namely Griffin Nova and Claridge House by Polygon. Suze, next up, let's talk about pre-sale forecast.
Yeah, let's turn our attention to the new year. So in total, we're expecting just over 1,000 units to launch in January, mostly concrete product to kick us off for the year. There's an incredible number of projects preparing to launch. These projects are currently in VIP previews and are actively taking registrants and working with prospects as we speak. Now, as we've got so many projects gearing up for a release towards Lunar New Year and into the spring market, there's going to be a lot to talk about in the next few months.
February and March are going to be very exciting numbers.
So let's touch on a couple of key projects that are sort of active right now. Let's start with the Kiri by West Group. The Kiri by West Group is set to launch at the end of the month and is the final phase within the Brewery District. This is in New Westminster, 35-story tower, and will include 292 new homes. And it's actually the most recent concrete pre-sale project to launch in New West in over 2 years, which is kind of incredible to think about. Now, the project will benefit from its access to the Sapperton Station and adjacency to the Royal Columbian Hospital. Pricing hasn't been made available just yet, but we can expect the project to blend around mid-$900 per square foot, in that range. Actually, I think that's really good value. When you think about what Surrey Central is selling at, mid-900s for that New West location is actually pretty good, I would say.
Especially proximity to the waterfront, right? And also you have to take into consideration that New Westminster just 3 years ago, that number would have been far, far less.
Yeah, agreed.
So next up, King and Columbia by Form Developments. Now, this is set to launch in the second week of January. This project is going to bring 16 new townhouses to the Cambie Street corridor. It's a small project, there's no question about it. Even with the incredible demand in the townhome product right now, there's been several townhouse launches in the Cambie Street corridor, and so competition for those home buyers are going to be fierce. Very different marketplace and neighborhood when it comes to values relative to what we're seeing in other parts of Metro Vancouver, especially when you compare, say, townhouse demand in Brook Mountain or parts of the Fraser Valley. Now that said, King and Columbia is positioned and appears to be priced fairly well. It will be competitive. They're one-bedroom garden suites that's starting in the mid-700,000s. This is likely going to appeal to that sweet spot for investors who really are looking to upgrade their space. On a whole, the project appears to be blending out somewhere around $1,350 a square foot. We're going to continue to track this and report back to you. Check in with us next month.
Let's talk about Britannia Beach. This past December, we saw the first release of Britannia Beach Townhomes 81-unit master plan development. In total, the project will include 73 townhomes and 8 live-work attached housing units. The project has received strong interest, receiving just over 70 suite selection requests before launching. This is not a surprise given the lack of townhome supply we have. Prices range from the million to sort of $1.4 million range. Many include a rooftop deck. Overall price per square foot is estimated to be around $725 a square foot. Unsurprisingly, like I said, with the lack of townhouse supply and at these end prices, the first 15 townhomes that released sold out within days of launching. And I believe they're just about to release another 15 homes as part of that first phase, and we'll see that coming very, very shortly.
So next up, Nuvo by Anthem Properties. We love talking Anthem. The next expected launch in Metro Vancouver. This is actually happening in Metrotown, backdoor to their sister project. Now, this project recently released branding in December, and it's preparing to launch early 2022. It's about 358 homes, primarily focused on 1-bedroom and 2-bedroom offerings. Now the site is well located. It's adjacent to Patterson Station. It's right next to Central Park. We're gonna be tracking this closely. Given the sales outcomes from Anthem's previous Metrotown project, our expectation is that they're gonna be heavy on incentives, they're gonna be driving absorptions. Our belief is that this could really equate to some exceptional investor value in the near future in Metro Vancouver.
Okay, that's it for pre-sale. Let's get into some resale data and start with supply and demand. Looking at 2021, sales totaled just under 44,000, a 42% increase from the near 31,000 that were sold in 2020. But perhaps more interestingly, it was 4% higher than the previous record held in 2015. So this was a record-setting year. After peaking in March with over 55 sales in the month, we saw sales average out around 3,200 sales per month thereafter for the second half of the year, which is still quite elevated in our market. New listings totaled over 64,000, which was the highest it's been since 2008, and yet still critically low when we compare that to demand. By December, our inventory was the lowest it had been in 30 years, and note that this demand is being driven by locals, not foreign buyers. Looking at December, we saw just under 2,700 transactions occur, while down 13% from December of 2020. It's 33% above the 10-year average for the month, which is a very big December, especially for a month that typically sees a more significant slowdown.
I'm just gonna jump in, because everything in there was nailed, with the exception, by 55 sales, you meant 5,500 sales per month.
Yes, is that what I said?
Yes, but everything else in there, I hope you guys wrote it down. So 2021 was the year that really pushed people into Metro Vancouver to think on what they wanted out of their homes. So low interest rates, we have increased household savings, and then of course we have flexible work from home arrangements. And these are contributing factors right now to what's driving demand. Now with that in mind, the final numbers are in. The composite benchmark price in Greater Vancouver, it's up $1.23 million. That's seen roughly 17% gain year over year. This is an incredible outcome that we saw from 2021 demand. Now, by product type, single family detached and townhouses both saw a 22% gain year over year. And then we saw condo product upwards about 12.5%. Now, what's really important to point out is much of the gains of single family and townhouses happened all throughout the year. We saw apartments really lag, and from June onwards, they've really began to run. Our belief is that in the cycle between those three products, we're going to see apartments continue to run aggressively as we move into the new year.
Yeah, especially for the first half of the year. Finally, let's dive into sales to listing ratios. Detached and townhomes held steady at about 35% and 75% respectively, while condo products saw a 7% gain to reach 61%. Now across the board, Greater Vancouver saw a sales to listing ratio of 51%, still comfortably within that seller's market territory. The good news is we will see more inventory come to the market in the next month or two as the market ramps up for the spring. Hopefully there is enough to alleviate some of the supply issues we currently have, especially as immigration levels also pick up.
So Suze, here we are, finally. Our first episode of 2022, complete and full exciting year ahead. We're really looking forward to this. If there's one prediction though that we can make with 100% accuracy at the beginning of this year, it's that we cannot wait to share some of the value and our viewers are experiencing every month with Pre-sale Pulse. So if you found some value in today's episodes, tap that like button like you mean it.
Like you mean it.
Like you mean it. Share it, subscribe to our channel. This gives you first-class access to Newswire, our daily roundup of the latest real estate news hitting the wires. We also have subscribers getting early access to our Pre-sale Pulse, market insights, and the latest projects that are breaking ground. What that means is that if you want to skip lineups, make sure that you're listening. MLA Advisory, it's going to continue to play a significant role in every major market across Canada. We have our ears in every single neighborhood. And so if you're in search of some market perspective, you're looking for a second opinion, contact us, either by visiting the links below or giving Suze a call on her cell.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll put that in the notes below. And lastly, we want to hear from you. Follow the link in the show notes to submit your questions or requests to speak about any trends or insights not mentioned in today's episode. We want to ensure that the Pre-sale Pulse is your preeminent source of real estate intelligence. And all jokes aside, you can connect with me on LinkedIn if you actually want to get a hold of me. So Ryan, that concludes our first episode of the year. Happy New Year to all our viewers out there, and see you next month.